All right, buckle up, everybody, because today we are diving deep into something you might not think is all that exciting at first.
Motor oil.
You got it. But hold on, we're not talking about just any motor oil. We're going deep on Valvoline Advanced Full Synthetic Motor Oil.
Yeah, and what really got us interested was the crazy amount of reviews this stuff has on Amazon, like
Over 25,000.
over 25,000, and they gave it a nearly perfect score, like 4.8 out of 5 stars.
Wow, that's a whole lot of happy car engines. So we had to know more, so we dug into those reviews.
And we found some pretty interesting stuff.
Yeah, people are talking about everything from, better engine performance,
Yeah.
maybe even some fuel efficiency gains.
But then there's the talk about oil leaks.
Yeah, that's where things get a little mysterious.
Yeah.
Some people are saying they saw leaks after switching, while others say this oil actually helped reduce leaks they already had.
Definitely something we need to unpack, but before we get into all that,
Let's back up for a second.
yeah, what exactly is Valvoline Advanced Full Synthetic Motor Oil?
In a nutshell.
It's a fully synthetic 0W20 motor oil.
Okay, so for those of us who don't speak fluent motor oil,
Full synthetic basically means it's designed to perform better and protect your engine better than conventional oil.
gotcha, and that 0W20 thing,
Ah, yes, that's the viscosity grade.
discuss it.
It basically tells you how easily the oil flows at different temperatures. And this particular grade, 0W20, is designed to work well in a wide range of conditions, so your engine is happy whether it's scorching hot or freezing cold.
Okay, so that covers the basics, but Valvoline is making some pretty big claims about this oil, right?
Oh, absolutely. They say it offers 24 times stronger protection against contaminants compared to other leading full synthetic oils.
Wow, 24 times.
They also claim 40% better wear protection
Okay,
and 25% better deposit protection.
those are some serious numbers.
They are, but marketing is one thing we want to know. What's the real deal?
Exactly. What are people actually experiencing? And that's where those Amazon reviews come in, right?
Exactly. And one of the first things that jumped out at me was how many people were raving about the value for money. Yeah, like they kept saying how affordable this oil is, especially considering the quality and performance they're getting.
So you're saying you don't have to empty your wallet to get a good quality synthetic oil?
It seems that way.
Music to my ears.
It definitely challenges that idea that high performance means high price.
For sure.
But of course, no product is perfect, and even with all those glowing reviews, we did see some mentions of a potential downside: oil leaks.
Yes, the oil leak mystery. Some reviewers reported leaks after switching, while others claimed this oil actually reduced existing leaks.
Right, so what's the deal?
Yeah.
What's going on there?
Well, it could be that the synthetic oil being thinner and more free-flowing than conventional oil might be revealing pre-existing engine problems that were masked before.
So it's not necessarily causing the leaks, but it could be exposing weaknesses that were already there.
Precisely. It's like if you have a tiny crack in a pipe, thicker fluid might not leak out as easily, but thinner fluid could find its way through.
Interesting. So it's not the oil's fault, it's just doing its job maybe a little too well. Exactly. It's important to look at the whole picture.
All right, so we've talked value and the oil leak puzzle. What else are people saying about how this Valvoline oil actually performs in their cars?
Well, the feedback is overwhelmingly positive on that front. People consistently report noticeable improvements in their engine's performance after making the switch.
Like, what kind of improvements are we talking about?
Lots of drivers mentioned a quieter engine, a smoother driving experience, and even no more smoke at startup.
Okay, that's pretty good. I mean, who doesn't want a quieter, smoother running engine?
And believe it or not, some reviewers even felt like their car had better acceleration after switching to this oil.
Wait, really? So not only might it make your engine happier, but could potentially give your car a little pep in its step.
That's what some users are saying.
Interesting.
Now, it's hard to say for sure if that's a placebo effect or a genuine result of reduced friction and improved engine performance,
Sure.
but it's definitely an interesting detail that popped up in the reviews.
It is. It's these little unexpected things that make digging into these reviews so fun. You get a real sense of how a product actually impacts people beyond all the technical stuff and marketing jargon.
Absolutely. It reminds us that we're not just dealing with beta points. We're talking about people's experiences with their cars, which
Yeah.
can be pretty personal,
Yeah, absolutely.
And speaking of personal, you know what else stood out to me in these reviews?
What's that?
A lot of people were talking about how easy this oil is to use.
Oh, really?
Yeah, even for people who aren't, DIY mechanics or anything.
That's interesting because oil changes can be messy.
Right.
Did Valvoline do something different with like the container or something?
It seems like they did because a lot of the reviewers specifically called out the design.
Okay.
They were praising the easy pour spout and the clear markings.
That's
They
amazing.
said it made oil changes so much easier, less frustration.
Okay, I am all for that. Anything that can make that process a little less messy,
Right.
a little less stressful.
Sign me up.
Sign me.
Yeah, it really seems like Valvoline put some thought into the whole user experience,
Yeah.
from buying the oil to actually using it.
I like that.
Yeah,
It's the little things, right?
absolutely.
Now, another interesting thing we saw in the reviews was that some people noticed the oil seemed to stay cleaner for longer
No.
compared to other oils they'd used before.
That's a great point. And, it kind of goes back to those claims Valvoline makes about better protection against contaminants and deposits.
Right.
So if the oil's staying cleaner, does that mean maybe you could go longer between oil changes?
Now, that would be a huge plus, right?
It would.
Less time under the car,
Yeah.
less money spent on oil,
Yeah.
and hey, maybe even a little better for the environment.
Yeah, exactly. All good things.
Definitely.
And while we're on the topic of the environment, it's worth noting that some reviewers did bring up concerns about, the whole production process of synthetic oil.
Right, because it's more complex than conventional oil, right?
It is, and the manufacturing process can be a bit more energy intensive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So even though using synthetic oil might mean fewer oil changes overall, which, could be seen as a positive for the environment,
Mm-hmm.
there's still the question of how we dispose of it responsibly.
Exactly. It's a bit of a trade-off.
Yeah, for sure.
It's something to think about
It is.
when you're weighing your options.
As we've been going through these reviews, I keep thinking back to those big claims Valvoline makes
Oh, yeah.
about this oil, like 24 times stronger protection against contaminants, 40% better wear protection.
Those are some bold statements.
They are. So I'm curious, do you think those claims actually hold up in the real world?
Well, marketing can sometimes be a little,
A little enthusiastic.
let's say, enthusiastic.
Right.
And without seeing Valvoline's testing data, it's hard to say for sure how they came up with those numbers.
So a healthy dose of skepticism is always a good idea,
Always a good idea when it comes to marketing claims.
especially when they sound really impressive.
Exactly. But even with that in mind, the sheer volume of positive reviews we're seeing, combined with the fact that it seems to be pretty reasonably priced,
Right.
it does make this Valvoline oil seem like a pretty solid option for a lot of drivers.
I think I agree with you there. And even with those questions about the oil leaks,
Yeah.
it seems like they might be more of a sign of, underlying engine issues.
Right. It could just be that the oil is revealing problems that were already there.
Exactly, like shining a spotlight
Mm.
on something that was hidden before.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's say someone's listening to this and they're thinking, okay, I'm convinced I want to try this Valvoline oil.
Right.
Where do they get it?
Well, the good news is it's pretty easy to find. You can probably just head down to your local auto parts store.
Seriously, just down the street.
Probably.
Yeah.
And of course, you can always find it online, which is, where we found all these reviews we've been talking about.
Speaking of online reviews, I have one more question for you.
Okay.
We've been focusing on Amazon reviews for this episode, which
Yeah.
is great,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
for getting a sense of what everyday drivers are thinking. But I'm curious, what about professional mechanics?
Oh, that's a good question.
What do they think of this Valvoline oil?
That's a great question. And to be honest, it's a little beyond the scope of what we're looking at today,
Right.
but it's definitely something worth exploring.
It would be interesting to get their perspective right.
It would be.
They see so many different engine problems and so many different types of oil.
Absolutely. They're the experts.
Right, they're the ones on the front lines.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll add that to our list of future deep dives.
Sounds good.
But for now, I think we've given our listeners a pretty good overview of Valvoline Advanced Full Synthetic Motor Oil.
Yeah, I think so.
We've talked about its features, the good, the bad, and most importantly, what actual users are experiencing.
We even touched on some bigger picture stuff like the environmental impact and, choosing the right oil for your specific car.
So if you're thinking about giving this Valvoline oil a shot, you've got some good information to work with now. You can weigh the pros and cons, think about your own needs, and make a decision.
Exactly.
And if you do give it a try, let us know what you think.
Yeah, we'd love to hear from you.
It's funny. I started this whole deep dive thinking, motor oil, how interesting can it be? But honestly, I've learned a lot.
I know, right?
It's one of those things you don't really think about too much, but then when you actually dive in,
Yeah.
it's actually pretty fascinating.
There's a lot to it.
And these Amazon reviews have been so helpful.
They have.
You really get a sense of how people are actually using this Valvoline oil, what they're seeing,
Yeah.
in their own cars. It's like a little window into the world of car maintenance.
It is. It really shows you that sometimes the best information comes from the people who are actually using the product every day.
Totally. So based on everything we've talked about,
Mm.
if someone's out there on the fence about trying this Valvoline Advanced Full Synthetic,
Yeah.
what would you say? What's your verdict?
Well, I'd say based on everything we've seen, it seems like a pretty solid option, especially if you're looking for a good quality synthetic oil that doesn't break the bank.
Right.
The fact that it has so many positive reviews and it's affordable makes it pretty attractive.
And even with those oil leak concerns, it sounds like those might be more related to pre-existing issues rather than the oil itself.
Right. It's like I was saying before, it's not necessarily that the oil is causing the leaks. It might just be revealing problems that were already there.
Exactly. Okay, so let's wrap this up with a question for our listeners.
Right.
We've talked a lot about synthetic oil today,
Mm-hmm.
but is it always the best choice? Is it the best choice for every car and every driver?
That's a great question. And the answer is, it depends.
It depends.
There are definitely situations where conventional oil might be a better fit, maybe depending on how old your car is, your driving habits, even your budget.
So it's not a one-size-fits-all kind of thing.
Not at all. It's about finding the oil that's right for you and your car.
Yeah, exactly. Do your research. Check your owner's manual. Maybe even talk to your mechanic.
Good advice.
All right, folks, that brings us to the end of our deep dive into Valvoline Advanced Full Synthetic Motor Oil.
Thanks for joining us.
We hope you enjoyed it, and maybe you even learned a thing or two about keeping your engine running smoothly.
And remember, whether you're a car expert or just starting to learn about car maintenance,
There's always something new to discover.
keep learning.
Stay curious, keep asking questions.
And don't be afraid to get your hands a little dirty.
That's right. Thanks for listening, everybody.